Okay, we are going to be watching a video on a bridge. The bridge that changed the map of Europe, whole Europe. And let's see, this is a video by the B1M channel. I watched, I think so, few videos from their channel before, and it's a really good channel, by the way. If you haven't checked that out by yourself, you should. But anyways, let's get to this video and see why and how this bridge changed the map of whole Europe. Let's get it.
This bridge should not have been possible. It's the Millau Viaduct in France, the
Damn, that is a big bridge, dude.
tallest bridge in the world.
Oh.
In fact, even today, in all of Europe, there are only 4 skyscrapers taller than it. It soars 340 meters above the Tarn Valley and
Damn, that is hella scary, dude. For real.
stretches for 2.4 kilometers. For decades, its critics said it could never be built. When it was finished, it changed the map of Europe and could be seen from
Looks
space.
nice.
To construct it, the deck had to slide across 7 enormous towers in a technique that was so innovative, no one was really sure if it would work.
I was absolutely terrified. I was physically sick with apprehension. Was it the right decision?
To celebrate the
Is this the
20th
guy
anniversary
who did
of the
it?
bridge's opening, we sat down with renowned architect Lord Norman Foster.
He made it,
in a
I guess.
Special interview,
Like
tracing
the
the
architect.
viaduct's journey from impossibility to icon.
It's an extraordinary fusion of talents right across every aspect of society, from the politicians through to the extraordinary individuals who made it.
Lord Norman Foster is one of the world's most accomplished architects. If you don't know his name, then you'll definitely recognize some of his projects.
Okay.
The Gherkin, the Reichstag, almost every Apple store you walk into. And of course,
Oh man, he have made Apple Store too. I mean, designed Apple Store too. That's cool.
it's the epic Apple Park.
Oh, wow. This guy is like a big, huh? Like everybody knows him. Okay, he's a big guy in architect. Like even he designed Apple Park as well. And Apple stores and some famous buildings and that bridge. Sheesh.
His practice continues to define the skylines of America, Asia, the UK and Europe.
Okay.
But it's this project that may be his most breathtaking.
Okay.
This is the bridge above the clouds, the Millau Viaduct.
Millau Viaduct. Okay.
France has a problem. This is Massif Central. It's a beautiful, rugged, mountainous terrain that covers about 15% of the country. It also severs France in two. These same gorges, rivers and forests make it an incredibly hard landscape for anyone to cross, going from the north to the south of the country, or from northern Europe to Spain. Now, for centuries that divided Europe and meant that central France could not develop due to a lack of adequate transportation links. The roads and train lines that did exist were mostly single lane and would have to dip and rise into these steep valleys or make
Those
massive detours.
mountain roads.
Many villages didn't have proper connections to the outside world at all. In the summer months, those travelling from cities like Paris to the south of France would have to come through here.
Millau.
This is Millau, a picturesque village surrounded by beautiful countryside. During this time, it became pretty much the worst bottleneck in Europe. The congestion would add 5 hours to any journey and extend 20 kilometers in both directions.
Yeah, you see how congested it is. Makes sense, okay.
Then, in the 1980s, the French government decided to solve this problem. Massive freeways were built through the region, but the question remains what to do about the worst part of the bottleneck. What to do about Millau? Should the village be bypassed altogether? Should a bridge be constructed over the Tarn River? But where would you put it? Geologists and specialists worked for years to figure out where on earth this bridge could go. The valley was wide and steep and prone to landslides. It was a bit of a nightmare. Engineer Michel Verligo and his team then had a light bulb moment. What if the road didn't go into the valley at all? What if the bridge just went directly over it? It was an incredibly bold idea and something that had never been done on such a scale before.
I mean, Just look at it, just look at it. Just look how high it is, dude. Even when you are going, I'm sure if you first time travel on that bridge, you'll be a little bit, scared, because that thing is high up there, dude.
The French government thought Vertigo was insane, and the bridge was put to rest for the time being.
Okay.
In fact, if it hadn't been for the success of another bridge a few hundred miles away, the Malau Viaduct might never have happened. Vertigo was working on the Pont de Normandie, which was completed in 1994. It's an incredible cable-stayed bridge that crosses the Seine.
Why is it
right
like
before
that?
It empties out into the ocean. Seeing this bridge convinced the French government that the Malau Viaduct might just be possible after all. Vertigo had one condition. If the bridge was going to cross the Tarn Gorge, it would have to add to the landscape, not take away from it. It would have to be beautiful. And that is where architect Lord Foster came in.
You only get one first impression. And it was just a meeting of minds. I mean, when we started to engage with each other and talk about the idea of the competition, it's rare that you engage with somebody and when you're talking issues of structure or aesthetics, that you find you're on the same wavelength. The chemistry was and is fantastic.
An international competition was held to decide on the design for the bridge. It was not especially common for architects to be involved in massive national infrastructure projects like this.
Yeah.
So Lord Foster would have to prove his worth.
I think it's very
And he
rare.
did, I guess.
I think the government agency that was tasked with the idea of the competition realized environmentally it was so sensitive that there should be from the outset a visual aesthetic coupling to the engineering.
A cable-stayed bridge was chosen over more traditional structures like a suspension bridge. Cable-stayed bridges are more efficient at carrying heavy loads, and they can support a more slender deck, meaning it's much nicer to look at. Everything about the viaduct was done to minimise its visual impact. Lord Foster even reduced the number of piers to 7 from the 9 that Vertigo had initially proposed.
Okay, 7 to 9. 7 to 9?
They put forward something more than just a bridge. It was an extension of the natural beauty of the valley itself.
Yeah, there are 7.
A philosophical concept, not just a functional one.
I remember collaborating with Buckminster Fuller for the last 12 years of his life, and I remember him saying something like, I never try and make something beautiful, but at the end of the process, if it's not beautiful, then somehow it's wrong.
Now, the real
They wanted, but they also
Once
wanted
plans for the bridge
beautiful.
were officially announced, there was an outcry from locals and environmentalists. Like Lord Foster, many feared the natural beauty of the landscape would be ruined by a colossal bridge that was taller than the Eiffel Tower. There were
Right.
also fears that while the bridge would assuage the bottleneck, it could negatively affect the economy of Valau. There was now more pressure on Foster and Vertigo than ever before. This enormous, record-breaking bridge would also need to be invisible.
Oh.
Now,
Play. Okay,
at this stage,
thanks.
the piers would be taller than any building in Europe, and they'd be sitting in open fields with no other structures around them for scale. They would look even more gigantic.
That's true.
So, to balance this, Lord Foster wanted them to disappear into the sky.
Oh, he wanted to go more up.
Is faceted and is like a tuning fork, and you can see through it. That was simultaneously, visually slimming it, but at the same time responding to the expansion and contraction in a more economic way. So performance, economy, integrity, optimized structure all go hand in hand.
The towers would get more slender as they rose, dividing into 2 prongs, more or less halving from the 24 meters wide at their base
So they
to
go
the
like
11
this.
meters width at the top. Now, while that's aesthetically pleasing, it also served another purpose as well. You see, the Malau Viaduct had another big obstacle to contend with: the wind. Wind speeds could blow through the Tarn Gorge at more than 100.
That's usually a problem if you make a
The 2 prongs in each of the
very
piers
tall
allowed
bridge.
for the deck above to move but be stable while the wind could pass through the gaps. It also allowed for the deck to expand and contract, as metal tends to do on warm days. This was another example of the harmonious relationship between engineering and architecture that this bridge demanded.
Okay,
But
okay.
there was one pressing issue that kept Lord Foster awake at night. What colour should the bridge be?
Oh,
It sounds simple enough, but the choice could make or break the entire project. The viaduct couldn't exactly be bright red like the Golden Gate Bridge.
right.
That's not a cosmetic decision.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you wanna go with a what color bridge, you should just go with a normal plain white, or that normal that whatever the bridge is made of, just go with that same color, or maybe some of creamish whitish color should be fine, I think.
It has enormous visual impact. If you decide that the landscape is the protagonist, is the main player, then that will lead you to doing those cables dark, because they would disappear into the landscape.
Bro knows what he's doing, man. He knows what he's doing, for real. I can
But
tell.
they would be dominant against the sky. If you
Oh
make
yeah,
them
that's
light,
true. That's true. Like, you really have to think about like what color those lines will be, what color those rods, which hold all the weight of the bridge will be. So if you look from all those angles, up or down, and how they will look, good or not.
they would disappear into the sky.
Lord Foster realised
But looks like the way they are light color, like the way they are white color now, they are kind of disappearing in the sky, which does look good. I think so. If it were black, it would look worse than this, I think so. So I
that
guess
most people
that's the
visiting
right color.
viaduct would be seeing it from below, either from the village or from the deck as they drove across it.
Yeah.
So the bridge would need to blend in with the sky, not the valley around it.
True.
In the end, he chose grey.
I was
That's
absolutely
fine.
terrified. I was physically
Wow.
sick with apprehension. Was it the right decision? It's binary. There's no halfway.
Space in the piers
yeah.
was its own challenge. They'd have to sit equal distances apart, but also be structurally efficient, buildable, and economical.
Okay.
There's a trade-off between the cost of a span, because the longer the span, generally, the more expensive it becomes. But then the shorter the span, the more piers.
Right.
Each pier has 4 deep piles.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
each pier obviously has a cost.
Right.
In the end, the team compromised with a span of 342 metres in between each pier. These piers, each one taller than a skyscraper, then began their construction. GPS was used for positioning, and project engineers sunk them deep into the valley bedrock and covered them with reinforced concrete.
Okay.
The deck was made from hollow steel and prefabricated in sections at the Eiffel factory in eastern France.
Oh.
Yes, that Eiffel. Each
Okay.
section was then floated down the Rhine to the Mediterranean to the French coast and then driven by road to the construction site.
Damn,
The
that
deck
was a
then
long
slid
way.
across the completed towers using enormous hydraulics that pushed them steadily across the valley piece by piece each day. They were launched simultaneously from both sides over temporary structural supports. Now, during this time, the weather had to be closely monitored.
Right.
Strong winds could damage the deck before it reached the next supporting tower, and each launching operation would take up to 3 days. Even with GPS, it wasn't certain that the deck would meet in the middle, that the piers would line up, or that the colour was the correct one.
Whether
Okay.
it's a bridge or whether it's a building, we now have more sophisticated means of visualization. But the truth is, until you actually see the real thing,
Yeah, that's true.
you really don't know.
The day the two halves were due to meet was a nerve-wracking one for everyone involved. In the end, it was achieved with millimetre precision.
Whoa. I mean, it looked kind of weird right here, but okay, I guess that's how it's supposed to look, something like that.
It was only
Of course, it's not fully
the
complete.
architecture and engineering teams could view their bridge and see if it was actually a success.
Okay.
The relief, I can't tell you. And again, it's only when you come on the approach road and then wonderfully you realize it was the right decision.
From the beginning, Lord Foster didn't want the road to be a simple straight line. He wanted it to curve across the valley so that as you drove across it, you got a true sense of the bridge's scale.
Okay. Yeah, like if you go straight, of course you won't really notice, you won't really know how tall bridge is or how long that bridge is. So if you just curve it a little bit at the end, so you'll have some kind of a sighting of, oh damn, this thing is huge, you know. There's something like that.
When you drive over that bridge and it unfolds, so you're seeing the piers disappearing in perspective. The sides are transparent, and it's very, very difficult to find a bridge where you can drive over and you can actually see, you feel you're on that shelf. So you've got all the safety, all the protection, but you can see across. So it's the closest you can get to flight, and when that is literally above the clouds.
Wow.
Far from destroying the economy of Malau, the bridge became an instant icon and a tourist attraction in its own right.
Really?
Visitors come far and wide to see the bridge and the village, but now there's no congestion.
When I was last there, somebody came up to me and said something along the lines of, when you were doing this project, I protested it. This individual said, I just want to tell you, we were wrong.
Right. Yeah, you guys were
opened
wrong.
up this area of France and changed the map of Europe. Within 3 years, the bridge had paid for itself. The detour also saves around 40,000 tons of CO2 emissions from heavy goods vehicles alone.
Right.
That's the equivalent of 40,000 trees absorbing emissions over 40 years.
Damn.
This viaduct illustrates, perhaps more than any other, the importance of good design and the power of involving architects in infrastructure projects. It
Sheesh.
shows that architects and engineers can achieve remarkable things when they truly work in harmony.
True, true.
It's really important to break down the barriers between the different parties, because in the end, all of these things are in the public domain. And in my experience, the more views, the better.
Because of its beauty, this bridge doesn't detract from the landscape around it, it only adds to it and elevates this place to new heights.
And when you look at it, it's not a work of architecture, not a work of engineering, it's a work of infrastructure. It's unique. It doesn't, you can't compare it with anything else.
There's a lot of
talk about buildings,
stuff went to it, you know.
This building or that building, but there's only one Mio viaduct.
Don't forget that we're raising awareness of construction's mental health crisis and supporting charities in this space.
Okay. Sick, honestly. Kind of sick, honestly. I mean, the way this guy have made or got his name out there, I mean, I'm sure it's because of the stuff he do, man. I mean, look at that bridge, how high that thing is, dude. And it's good that it have helped so many people to go across the cities, you know, easily, way more easily than going through all those mountain road and all that. I think so. Malau city, congested Malau city, you can say, and then getting to their destination. But yeah, this bridge is sick, man. It's really tall, really tall, really. And the way this guy thinks, or the way this guy, you know, try to make that bridge and everything in the mind, and how everything will affect it, you can really tell he's a mastermind in infrastructure, or you know, in architecture, you can say. But yeah, the way he made all these Apple stores plus Apple what that, you know, Apple Park, you know. But yeah, he's a mastermind, man, and I'm sure the way he did all the other project, of course he's gonna kill this one as well. The color he chose right, the height is really good, the view is really good, and everything about it is perfect. As he also said, it's not like a crazy building or a crazy bridge, but it's really nice looking, good, appealing, like when you see from far away, and how many people are coming just to see that bridge, and it's bringing more money, you know, so it's better for whole cities and all that. But yeah, overall great video by B1M, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.